Welcome, friends, to the Campus Ministry Today podcast. I hope wherever you are listening, it's a beautiful day on campus. We're coming to you live from the VS Students headquarters. I'm joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Steve Shadrach. Shad, how are you doing?
Well, I'm a legend for sure, but it's only in my own mind, not in my own time, Clayton. So please correct that statement if you would.
I love it. Well, Shad, last time you and I actually spent some quality time together, we were in Kenya together. And since then, you've been around the world the past month. And so before you introduce our guest, just kind of update us on the adventures of Shad, like where you've been, what you're working on now.
Well, I got to be in Ethiopia and Kenya, participating in some great training and conferences, and from people all over the continent. It was pretty powerful to be with such great leaders like that. Then 4 countries in Latin America over the next several weeks. Brazil, amazing conference of workers and missionaries and senders from all over that country. It's become a tremendous sending nation. Argentina, Panama, Costa Rica. One thing that I noticed among many, lots of people are listening to this podcast. So that was encouraging. It's not just for Americans. There are people in Africa, there are people in Latin America that are enjoying and benefiting from this podcast. So let's keep going, Clayton. Come on, let's keep going.
All right, let's make it work.
Well, I do want to introduce our guests. They're longtime friends of mine. Clayton and I have known Samantha Barnes, her whole life. She grew up in Conway, Arkansas, and so I'll not tell any kindergarten stories on Sam. But she is from an amazing family, amazing church, our home church together. And now she came to Arkansas, and so I've been on crew staff for many years, and partnering along with my old friend Tim Castile, who has been here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but I think since just about after the Civil War is when we got here, I think, Tim. And so he's been majoring on reaching students for Christ for many, many years, at least 25. But why don't you briefly introduce yourself, Sam, and then Tim, you do the same, and we'll get to starting to throw you some questions.
Yeah, it sounds great. My name is Samantha Barnes, and yes, I have fond memories of going to Steve's house as a kid for church dinners and things like that. But I grew up in Conway and came to school here at the University of Arkansas, and a couple years after graduating college, decided I wanted to join staff. And I wanted to go back to the college campus and help students think about what it looks like, not just to walk with God in college, but for the rest of their lives. So I've been on staff with Cru for a little over 12 years. And most of that time has been here at the University of Arkansas. I'm married, and I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so juggling both campus ministry and then bringing the kids along in that, and figuring out what it's like to be a mom of young kids in the middle of, everything going on campus. So it's a really fun season of life right now.
Wow.
I've been on staff with Cru for 28 years, and 22 of those have been at the University of Arkansas. So married, I have 5 kids. I have 2 kids at the University of Arkansas right now, and 1 that just graduated from the U of A, and then 2 in high school. So enjoy being here in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
My goodness. Sam, first of all, I didn't realize you and Shad had this history. And then also just hearing your introduction, I'm like, we need to have Sam on just to talk about motherhood and ministry and that chaos that you juggle so effortlessly. And then Tim, grateful for you guys to be here. Now, one of the reasons we brought you guys on is, correct me if I'm wrong, you are the most sending crew in the nation. Is that a correct statement? Can you say that without smiling?
I think that's correct. Yes.
Okay. So what that, first of all, what does that mean? And then I know, Tim, that's kind of been a dream and a goal for you guys. And so why is that something that was so important to y'all? I mean, not being number 1 and beating the Aggies, although that
was the goal for sure.
But the part about sending students and mobilizing students to missions.
we can't beat the Aggies at much in sports, but we do want to beat them at sending to the world.
That's
So
right. Things that last. Things that last.
things that matter. Who needs football? Anyway, yeah, I think what it means in particular is it's sending on summer missions is kind of the main metric, but also I think probably, I would guess, we're maybe the top sending as far as sending out missionaries to the world. And so I think over the years, I've become aware that I like to research. I like to study our craft and study college ministry and the college campus. And I realized that the worldwide population in my time on staff, and really in the last 2 decades, the worldwide population of college student has more than doubled in the last 2 decades, from 100 million to 220 million college students. And almost all of that growth has come outside of the United States. And so regions around the world, college populations have doubled or tripled or even quadrupled in size. And I remember distinctly one summer I was on a summer mission in East Asia and walking on this massive campus, thousands and thousands of Asian students. And I just thought, what happens if the summer mission doesn't show up on this campus? Like if we don't show up and tell them about Jesus, it's not like they're going to go to Navigators or go to the Baptist church on Sunday. There's no one here. There's no one to tell them about Jesus. And I kept thinking about Romans 10 and just saying, how will they believe in whom they have not heard? And how will they hear without a preacher? And how will they preach unless they're sent? And that's what compelled us, I think, originally, is like, what we need to do something about that. And so I got this, it was back in 2015. And I remember getting an email that said, congrats, you're one of the top 25 sending campuses in Cru. And immediately, because I like researching, I immediately thought, what do those 25 campuses have in common? Like, what is the common thread? What makes them good at sending to the world? And I called pretty much all those campuses and asked them, like, what makes you tick? And by far, the number one thing that came across consistently on all those campuses, that their staff team consistently goes to the world. But it got worse. I think I eventually realized I'm the problem. Like, my key takeaway from the research was, if you're not sending to that level that some of these campuses are, you as a team leader don't truly believe in sending to the world. And it's one of my biggest epiphanies in my 28 years of college ministry, that sending starts with me as a team leader. And if I don't fully buy in, we're not going to do it. Like, we are not going to send to the world. And so we really made a massive shift around that time.
What would Sam add to that? You guys are one of the top sending campuses in the U.S., maybe the world. And that's, we preach that all the time. Make sure your campus becomes a launching pad, a sending base to the nations. You can talk about it all day long, but you guys are doing it. I know your spring break trip has really had an impact on your sending, but what would you add to what Tim shared, Sam?
Of just why it's so important for us, like why this has been the dream.
Yeah, and how do you account for the growth and the success in your sending efforts?
Well, the growth and the success, like we go back to all the time, like the Lord is doing something special, and it feels like a privilege to be on this campus at this time in history. That it just feels like we're in a really unique space in Northwest Arkansas specifically, where we've got large churches that are healthy and that have missions cultures. We have students that are often coming from spaces where that's the case. We've got missions conferences here, and the traveling team, and we have VIA is here. So there's so many resources here that, like we always want to go back to, like, the growth in sending comes back from what the Lord is doing and our willingness to step into that. And so it's been really special to see the ways that, like, that's just grown. Like, I think even the timing of thinking about what was happening in East Asia as our teams were stepping foot there, and then the ways that things shaped over COVID, we saw a lot of campuses really struggle with kind of jumping back into international sending after COVID. That was a hard thing.
Yes.
But there was something going on here where that jump happened more quickly for us. That our students were so disappointed in not going. They were like on wait lists to go the next year when it opened up. So I think a lot of what we've seen here is just a unique space that we're in, a unique university environment, and what God's doing on campus. And
historically, you all, Dr. Bright, your founder, and other leaders, win, build, send. That's been a Cru, moniker, if I can use that word, for decades and decades. We've kind of took it and rearranged it a little bit. I hope you don't mind. And we call it EDM, not electronic dance music, but evangelism, disciple making, and missions mobilization. But really, it's just a fancy upgrade of win, build, send. And so, but the sending part, Clayton and I were interacting about this. What has the E and the D? How is that connected to your M? The evangelism you're doing, the disciple making you're doing on campus. How does that tie into the missions mobilization piece?
Yeah. There's this development pathway that we see for students, and it starts with them coming in as freshmen. And honestly, there's some realities for those who've been serving on the college campus, I would say at least 8 years, that you've seen almost this decline in students' maturity whenever they step foot on campus, of where they're at, maybe socially and just with some personal formation things. And so with that, like, we've really seen an opportunity to holistically invest in students. So oftentimes, like, summer missions comes, or like international sending comes after they've had some time just develop and grow as people. But we also think that happens best in a space where they are being pushed into evangelism and discipleship, that is doing something for them as a person as well as a believer. Whether they're a new believer or they're someone that is choosing to walk with Jesus in college, they're making that choice on their own. So I think it's been really fun to see, our student leaders, most of the times they start out going on a stateside summer mission. And that's where they're learning maybe some basic social skills, as well as how do I have spiritual conversations with people, and what is the vision of discipleship? Like, how is it more than just, mentorship with coffee, and how do I pursue spiritual growth in college? Like, we really want students to get this bigger picture of what they're stepping into. And so then as they're growing and maturing in those ways, they have a bigger view of the world, and it's not just internally focused. And I think that's huge in helping students then think about spending, 6 weeks in a foreign country over their summers.
It's good.
Amazing. And so it's this progression. It's not like, hey, welcome, you're 18. How do you feel about the mountains in South Asia?
Right.
It's this baby steps to these bite-sized pieces that they can handle. But what stretches you as a freshman doesn't stretch you as a senior. And so what are the experiences in evangelism, disciple making that's pushed by mission mobilization, or even like, this needs to be in place so that you can do those things?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But they kind of go together, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to, students will never think they're ready to share their faith. Like, as a freshman, right. I didn't want to go share my faith. Like, I had to be pushed to do that. But then I grew, exponentially once I was willing to take steps of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's amazing that, and you guys have seen this, you go and you spend a summer in intentional disciple making, sharing the gospel, and all of a sudden you come back to campus in the fall and it's like, oh, I can do this in my context. And so it's this reciprocal wheel. So we've got listeners that, they don't have a U.S. summer project. Like, they don't have a good first step. When they're talking about missions and missions projects, it's a new concept maybe for them. What are 2 or 3 or 4 just practical steps of, like, this is how, get these things in place so you can mobilize students?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really helped to pick one country in the world. There's so many places you could go. And we used to send kind of a shotgun approach, and just everyone did what was right in his own eyes and went all over the world. It was great, but we just didn't have a ton of momentum and synergy. And so we picked one country and we just send to one country. That's just, for all they know, that's all we do. I mean, cruising in 190 countries, but for all they know, we only go to one place. And so I think that's a first start. And then I think getting our staff and our interns, we strongly encourage them to get to that country in their first 2 years on our team, and really, get some buy-in.
And then with that, when they go, they often are building a relationship with the team that receives us, that we've got people in country there. And so then there's an excitement for the relationships that are there. And so our staff start caring about the families that are there. They're getting maybe their prayer letters, or they're, keeping up with them on Signal. And then they're talking about them to students. And so as there's relational buy-in too, like that gets students excited. And so I think having a close relationship, we see them on Zoom in our staff meetings every so often, and what can we do to really help build the connection beyond, if this is something that only happens in the summers, to this is a true partnership, and we care about the missionaries there, we care about the local people there. How do we keep building those relationships?
I don't know if y'all can see in the back behind me is a map. Tim probably recognizes that map. It's the Worldwide Student Network map. And in the 70s and even into the 80s, Cru would do the shotgun effect like you're talking about, Tim, and just send students and staff anywhere and everywhere all over the world, just kind of a, mix and match. And then they came up with this concept, Dr. Bride and Dave English and others, where they're going to connect one country with one campus. And so in 1984, what was the Colorado Lodge, Horn Creek Lodge or something like that we went to? And it was all the Crusade leaders and Dr. Bride, and somehow I got invited, me and one other campus outreach guy, and I was just a college pastor here. How they invited me, I don't know. But that was the formulation and the kickoff of this Worldwide Student Network that really has had impact now for close to over 40 years. Mm-hmm. That matching idea. So that might be something our listeners, Clayton, could take from this, and really Tim mentioned it, is pick out a needy area of the world and maybe start focusing on that one country and maybe that one relationship with that ministry and keep going back year after year. Would that be a good place to start, you all? If for those that are listening, they're saying, I'd like to get this thing kick-started. Where do I begin?
Yeah, I think that's has made a tremendous impact for us, of just going from a shotgun to a rifle approach, because you just day one, you step into our movement, your Bible study leader has been to this country and you're praying for this country and you're hearing about it, at our meetings. And so it's just kind of it's all around you, and it really makes you want to go. I would say the first step, and I kind of referenced this earlier, but the first step I would say is you need to go yourself. Like, even for a week, pick a country would be maybe step one. Step two, get on a plane and go to that country. Just get over there and see it for yourself and work on your own heart. Like, you don't need to work on students' hearts so much as you need to work on your own heart and then really bleed for the nations, and really your heart would match Jesus's heart for the nations. And because you think about it, how do missionaries become missionaries? Like, how does a student go from a self-centered life to getting on a plane and devoting years of their life to foreign missions? The way it usually starts is a committed missionary who is already going says, come with me. You should come with me this summer. That's how it starts. That's how the missionary process starts. And so come with me is it's way more powerful than you should go. In 2015, when I got that email, my wife and I hadn't been on an international summer mission in 15 years. And I was just convicted. And just as I was talking to all these campuses that were really good at sending, I was like, I need to get over there. I got on a plane by myself. My family didn't go. I just went for a week over to East Asia just to see it for myself and grow my heart. And that summer, we sent 2 students to East Asia on a summer mission from the University of Arkansas. The next summer, my wife and I led a summer mission. We took our 5 kids with us. We raised a ton of money, and we took 20 Arkansas students with us. So it went from 2 to 20 of just that come with me, instead of, hey, you guys should go over there. Go fulfill the Great Commission, guys. So it's just that would be step one, I think, is getting yourself over there and then start going all the time, like as often as you can, going to the world and saying, come with me.
I have a background with the Ministry of Student Mobilization, and for years we would send the summer teams to serve Cru and serve NAVs and serve YWAM and just, all these different groups. And we finally said, we want to have a country that we can focus on. Well, I went to the Cru leadership and they said, well, Eastern Europe's opening up, Russia, all these European countries. And why don't you guys pick out a particular campus in Eastern Ukraine, one of these big cities here, and we'll help you. We'll hold your hand as you get started here. And so sure enough, for 6 years, our team established a great ministry there in Kharkov, Ukraine, but under the tutelage of some experienced Cru leaders that we turned the ministry over to after 6 years, because y'all had a countrywide strategy going. But to partner with an existing ministry that knows what they're doing, that's already there, that might be a piece of advice also, whether it's a Cru, a STUMO, a campus outreach, a denomination. I mean, there's lots of options, but an established ministry that's there can receive you and kind of hold your hand in the early stages.
And with that, they can, like whoever you meet while you're there for the summer, you have people to pass it off to. Like, the ministry doesn't end when you leave. And so I think even that vision for students is really exciting, that like someone's going to maybe follow up with this person they met, or this conversation that wasn't done yet. There's someone else to keep that going.
That's great. Well, and those that are listening are like, well, we're not in a spot where we could just pick a country and go. You guys, I mean, our students aren't ready to go cross-cultural. Like, they're from a small town in the middle of nowhere, and how are you going to do this? But y'all have a farm team. Like, you guys send students to San Diego, for a summer project as well. And it's like, do San Diego, and then let's talk about jumping the pond. And so it's not just, everything kind of pushes towards the nations in a lot of ways. And one of the things I really appreciate about you guys, and this is kind of missions mobilization conversation. And sometimes we run into people who do missions and they're just kind of odd for God. Does that make sense? Like they've got the
quit talking about me like that, Clayton.
Well, and I get it. We lived overseas, but they're super gifted to fit into any culture but the U.S. culture. And they're so missions minded that they're not any good in their local context.
Oops.
And one of the things I really appreciate about you guys is that y'all aren't missions mobilized. That's not your role. It's part of your role, but it's not your job description. Like, Sam, you've written for us this past year about, student development, leadership development, and sharing your testimony, evangelism. And Tim, you've been on this podcast before, and you've written for us about disciple making and all these different things. So you guys it's not like the only thing you do is make sure students are going somewhere over the summer. Like, you're in the trenches of campus sharing the gospel, making disciples, and out of that's producing mobilization. But I get it. Like, you've got enough on a daily basis without sending students. It's like just waking up, doing campus ministry. You've got enough going on, students finding you, student leaders doing crazy things. What do you say to someone who's like, listen, I love the missions thing. I'm excited about that, but I don't have time for that. Like, I'm busy sharing the gospel, with students on my campus. I'm making disciples. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I don't have time for UPGs. I don't have time for the nations, because this is my nation that I'm working on now. Like, what's your response to that? In a loving, kind way.
I would say if you want to attract leaders, I think reaching just your campus, reaching just your dorm or your fraternity, but in general, just reaching your campus is too small of a vision. I think having the world in view and having that as a goal, like, come help change the world, is what Dr. Bright said. I think that sucks in good leaders. I remember we sat down with a junior. He was a fraternity president. His junior year, he's trying to figure out what he wanted to do after college. And the vision we cast him was like, man, we're currently trying to launch one country over there, but there's like 8 or 9 more in this region that there's very, very few Christians, 30 to 40 Christians in these countries. We want a Razorback team in every single one of those countries in the next 10 to 15 years. And his eyes just lit up, and he's like, I'm in. Like, that day, he's like, he could have gotten a job anywhere. But that vision of being a part of something bigger than himself, being a part of just truly world-changing things that are hard and challenging, I think you attract really good leaders who want their lives to really matter and really want. I've just found that. I think it's just I think if you just have a little small mentality, it's hard to attract people who want to make a difference for Christ.
I think I know who that president is.
You probably do.
I think I'm on his support team.
That's great.
So,
We appreciate your support, Steve.
well, maybe this will stir up some other supporters. Please, all these great leaders that Cru is raising up and sending to the world, join their support teams, please.
We'll drop a link in the bio.
Yeah, please do.
And
Send money.
And Shad's email address for those of you that need supporters.
Oh,
Shad
yes.
Ready.
Man, I think too, if someone is, just feeling like they're so bogged down with what's happening in the day in and day out, like it is like the vision of what we're doing and where we're going, but it's how do you view this as a piece of it? Like, it's not something totally separate to think about, like evangelism and discipleship, and that's all I can do. Like, it should be leading somewhere. And so no matter, at the end of the day, when your students graduate, whether they're going to go sit, in a corporate office or be a teacher in a classroom, or they're going to live overseas, like, what does it look like to send out people who have this bigger vision for how God uses people in the lives of others, and to have that outward focus? And so I think that thinking about reaching the world, yeah, it does attract leaders, but it also is going to like help people become better leaders back on your campus and then for the rest of their lives, no matter what they do. So when you can view sending as a piece of the development, and it's tied in with evangelism and discipleship, it's less of a, man, it's something totally separate than what we're doing. This is, if I play ahead 2 or 3 years, how is this the natural part of it? How do I expand my view of where we're going?
I think we've always in the past viewed the M word, that's discipleship 201, 301, 401. Well, let's not scare them away here on day one, where in fact, I think I've rearranged my thinking, kind of what Tim is saying, that if we want to attract strong leaders, we want to develop strong leaders, you better tie the world into it and have a steady diet, the whole time. And there's some great resources, pulling the traveling team to your campus and letting students be exposed there. We've got this Explore booklet that's being used all over the world with college students. We've been blessed in Northwest Arkansas to have a Perspectives on the World Christian Movement course here that's been here for, over, coming up on 40 years. And so, and there's other things. We have a conference that's here every year. We're blessed, aren't we, to have Northwest Arkansas, for the nation's missions conference. And so we do have some little perks here, don't we, in our neck of the woods. But as campus workers around the U.S., around the world, there are resources. You can either create them or utilize them to help this process of mobilizing students. And Clayton, I think every Christian is a missions mobilizer. May I go ahead and make that statement, please?
Yes,
Okay.
We can't scratch it. It's too like it's. So.
Well, final word, Tim. You're the sage. You're the wise sage of the University of Arkansas and really Cru all together. What's a final word you would share with our listeners here as they're thinking about this topic? What would you want them to leave with?
I think this is what God is doing right now. I was reading this summer about historically how the gospel is spread around the world and how it even got to us, and some of the great awakenings in the 1700s, and how England and Scotland were reached in the 1600s, and how a lot of it started on the college campus. A lot of it was young people, and they were coming to Christ in college and then going out from there really quickly after becoming Christians and immediately becoming missionaries. And there's a really clear line historically from revival happening in a country. It starts on the college campus and then immediately goes to the world. That's just what happens. That's what's happened historically. And I think that's what's happening right now in America and the Western Hemisphere. God is doing, I've never seen anything like this in my 28 years. I don't think this has happened since 1968 to 1972, kind of the Jesus Revolution era. That's the last time we've seen renewal like this happening on college campuses. I'm confident any student you talk to on a college campus anywhere in America or anywhere in the Western Hemisphere is open spiritually right now. And I think it's not going to stop and stay on the college campus. It's just going to spill out into the workforce, into neighborhoods. But I think it is going to be the next wave of modern missions. I think it's going to be just an incredible wave of students. That's where missionaries come from, the college campus. And so I think we have a stewardship as college ministers to think bigger than our little campus and to think about where do we fit in the body of Christ. That is our role in the body of Christ, is my conviction, just from Scripture and just from understanding kind of what we bring. We don't do everything in the world. Churches do a lot of it, but we can mobilize. We can get students to the world. We're the farm system for missionaries.
Historically, that's so true. And I'll wind us down here, but I'm thinking of one of your compadres who leads the OU ministry for Cru. Ben, is it Ben Seiler? Am I pronouncing his last name correct? Yeah. Arkansas grad, right?
He's not an Arkansas grad, but he lived here in Northwest Arkansas.
Okay,
And that's kind of how he
I withdraw my statement. Gosh, I was going to brag there for a minute. Well, I was interacting with him, and he has these pledge meetings, these SALT talks, where he's meeting with the pledge classes. And so normally when we do those, it's some relational topic, or maybe it's the gospel, it's kind of introductory to this group. He's experimenting with something where he has given a world vision talk. And I mean, here you got, 25, 18-year-olds, most of them non-Christians. They're there to party. And instead of him, doing some little topic on time management or, relationships or even the gospel, he jumps in right there and says, do you want to impact the world? God wants to use you, your life, your future, your vision to impact the whole world. He's given world vision to these non-Christian 18-year-olds on day one before they even come to Christ. And I'm anxious to say, Ben, what have you seen? What are the results of you doing that? But isn't that fascinating that he would do that?
Cool. That's cool. I know they have 20 or 30 Greek students going with them to Thailand in December on a trip over there. So it's happening.
I bet some of those are ones that he challenged in those pledge meetings, from day one, This has been fantastic. And we're so honored that y'all would be with us.
Nothing I like talking about more than sending to the world. So,
well, what a history. God has used each of you. God has used your ministry. That's how I came to Christ, is through a crusade staff guy took me out to the airport to supposedly teach me how to share my faith. And lo and behold, the kid wasn't interested at all, but I was reading the booklet and I had never made that decision. And so that's how I came to Christ when I was 18. So my life has been forever changed by y'all's ministry, and I'm so grateful. So I want to honor your time, and so we want to thank you, Tim. Thank you, Sam, for joining us today. We're grateful for your leadership, your modeling, your staying in the saddle all these years. Keep going. I think that maybe 80 might be a good time to kind of start slowing down, possibly. Okay. But I hope, friends, that you've enjoyed this episode of Campus Ministry today. Our fearless leader, Clayton Bullion, and myself, we get to do this periodically with some amazing guests like Tim and Sam. But we want you to subscribe to this podcast and check out viastudents.org. We got all kinds of tools there to help you win, build, and send. Students to the nations. And please utilize those as you kick off or develop your own sending ministry from your own campuses, your own college churches. So until next time, God bless.